we've got Steve Gray up here as well with us on this one. Steve, you've obviously got someone you're looking at in this race. Who are you looking at?
Adam Davis. Obviously, I've come down here with my mate. We both come from Blackpool, but I think Adam's been a very dark horse this season. Obviously, it's both our first times at the BRKC, but he was the Daytona F1 lightweight champion this year. So, if he's really, really fired up for this one, so I say it's definitely one to keep an eye on, James.
Absolutely. Now, you're the commentator up at Manchester. That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
It's in Blackpool. I do it at Blackpool.
Okay, in Blackpool, at Blackpool, but certainly you've obviously commentated on Adam Davis at some point, I'm sure.
I have, yes. Like I said, I've raced with him as well. We are so close on times when we race together. It really is quite frightening. There's not even tenths, thousands of a tenths between us, and that's probably why we get on so well as well, because our racing is so close. But yeah, Adam Davis, one to watch this time.
Well, Steve, it's interesting you should say that. Anwar, I'm sure if you and I found ourselves that close, the one thing we wouldn't be is great mates.
Well, I'd be pretty depressed if you were that close to me, to be honest, James. But anyway, he's definitely agreed that Adam Davis is going to be one to watch. I mean, anyone who's got indoor experience is definitely an advantage at this track for sure. But you can't look further than Lewis Manley surely in this race. Absolutely. Lewis Manley has been absolutely blistering, and he has to answer to Boutons. Boutons has been winning every single race, hand over fist. Yesterday Manley was tested to the limit, managed to pull off that win. In really extreme circumstances. So that's behind him now. In theory, this really should be a cakewalk in the sense that this should be more run of the mill. He should be more comfortable. But having said that, Lorenzo Stolk as well. He's been quick, as we've seen throughout the weekend. And Alex Van Geen, you never know what you get with Alex. We know what he's like. Sometimes he crops up with an absolute shocker of a result. Sometimes he's just way behind what he should be doing. So it would be interesting to see what he's doing. But definitely Adam Davis is worth keeping an eye on as well.
Yeah, Alex Van Geen, of course, it depends which Alex Van Geen is in the race, doesn't it?
Well, yeah.
A fired-up Alex Van Geen is capable of almost anything. We've seen some incredible racing by him. Obviously, you comment about our relative performances and why you will be in the wall next time we're racing together, because that will get remembered.
Together.
No, I'll shunt you off on your own.
Together.
I'm not going to wait for you because I'll be ahead of you.
You'll be going with me.
Anyway, back to the race in particular. Now, Lewis Manley, of course, it has to be said, if Lewis Manley can do what he did yesterday, this should be a no-brainer for him, shouldn't it? Because he's never going to have that kind of pressure as he had yesterday. And this really, on the basis of yesterday, is arguably his to lose. However, it's not over. There are people here who need their result. Lorenzo Stolk definitely needs his result for starters. And there's a few others who are fighting for their own positions, and it is really important.
Yeah, I think I certainly predict. I certainly will predict an easy win for Lewis Manley in this one. I think he's just going to get the hammer down. He's had the advantage of seeing, and sometimes there's a disadvantage seeing everyone go before you, and it puts the pressure on you. But as we know with Lewis Manley, pressure certainly doesn't seem to be something that bothers him too much, or certainly so he says it doesn't. I think he's pretty much going to get the hammer down. Absolutely go for it, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in the distance by lap 2 or 3.
Absolutely. One advantage Lewis Manley has is an extremely narrow focus, and that allows him, I think, to eliminate some of the things that you or I might get concerned about. Meantime, though, we've got Darren Pearce up here for a moment. Darren, that was an exciting race. We saw you come from nowhere. We hadn't really sort of noticed you out there pitting early on until Craig McAllister was right in your tail, and things got a bit fiery from there on. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to have been my forte today, pitting early and getting a good pit stop, and jumping out in front of people. I didn't have the pace at the end, but I just managed to defend Craig McAllister. All due respect to him, such a quick car, but just defended to the end, and that was probably the most enjoyable race I've had this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, and to be honest, a great result there with third place. That's obviously your best result too, so clearly enjoyable and result coming hand in hand. From what you saw there, obviously there was Sam Slater running away. You pitted it before you probably never saw Sam Slater all race, but certainly was there any hope that you had of catching the leaders at any point?
I didn't see Dan Healy. I seen Sam Slater in my sights for a little while, but I was kind of more concentrating on what was going on behind me than what was going on in front of me. So they were gone.
Craig McAllister gave you a real run for your money in that one, Darren. Was the result in your mind in doubt? It looked pretty close where we were. I mean, Craig was he'd spent a load of time behind, who was it, Johnny Spencer, and so he hadn't got past Johnny Spencer. He tried to pit himself out of that. Then when he comes out of the pits, he's right behind you, and we were looking at him thinking, Craig is just getting sick of the sight of back of other cars, so he's going to get pretty fiery with Darren up ahead. Did he get pretty fiery? I mean, it looked fairly close a few times from here. How was it on the track?
No, he couple of nudges, but nothing in malice at all. I don't think. I was probably annoying him a little bit, but no, he's a fair driver, and quick karter. I just kind of held him up a little bit, just for jokes.
Superb one, Darren. Thanks for that, and certainly you kept Craig McAllister at bay, and he's a good driver, so doing good. Are you back for more next year?
First one this year, so I really enjoyed it. So definitely come back next year. Yeah,
that's fantastic. It's looked good. Thank you. Right, looking ahead now to this next heat race, they're coming out on the track. We've got Adam Davis leading the way from Brent Gaskin. There's Alex Van Gien on course, and Mason Bates. There's Mason Bates, and here comes following him out is Dutch Westhoff. Now there's Lewis Manley. Lewis Manley, we saw him with such a strong race yesterday. That was probably the ultimate test that Lewis Manley is likely to face this side of a final against Ruben Boutons. Not least of which he had to cover every base. He had to come back from being lower down the order. He had to race well. He had to strategize perfectly. He had to deal with the mental aspect of having some very good people actually trying to take him for position. He had to defend, he had to attack, he had to do everything in that race and think. So Lewis Manley, top performance there. Really, he just needs to get the job done in this one. He's thinking in terms of points for the final rather than semi-final, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. As far as Lewis Manley's concerned, he's already in the final. That's what he believes, and he's believed that since before the race has started. But one thing that I would say is that we still haven't really seen that racecraft test from him. I keep mentioning it.
Sorry, Emma. You don't feel that he was tested enough yesterday in terms of racecraft, because that was, he either got lucky or guessed it right.
No, I think yesterday was more of a case of strategy choice. There certainly wasn't any overtaking that needed. He didn't have to deal with anyone defending from him to make the move after the pit stop. And certainly I think it broke for him. I do think it broke for him in the right places. People pitted in front of him quite early. Some people gambled on it and it didn't really pay off for them. But all it did was open it up for him. And we all know what happens when you open it up for him. He's just gonna have a free run at it, and we know once his pace is going, there's no stopping him. So yes, it was a test for him in terms of a test of his nerve and making the right choices. But I still worry that if we get to a final with someone like Boutons, Manley seems to be one of the only people who's close enough on pace to him. What happens if them two get in a fight in terms of on track? Are we going to see Manley able to put a move on Boutons? Are we going to see Manley be able to hold off Boutons if it's the other way around? Yeah, that's what we want to see.
That will be something worth seeing. Steve, as they're just gridding up, how do you see the Lewis Manley situation, particularly referenced yesterday?
Well, I mean, he's a superb driver, isn't he? He's come here and he's doing the job absolutely spot on. It is exactly, you can tell it is his track as well. He's a lovely lad as well. But I mean, you're coming up against Ruben Boutons, who again has proved himself day in and day out here. It's going to be too close to call, James. I really can't. I think whoever gets in front is going to have the advantage. But then, again, pit stop's going to come into play. It's my word, that, isn't it? The pit stops, I'm always going on about those. But no, absolutely, I'd say Manley. In this race? Oh, in this race, I'd say... I mean, looking at the times, you've got Manley who's got the pole, but then look, there he is, Adam Davis, third place. I told you, one to watch. He's done well. I told him, get the qualifying nailed. If he gets that done, then he should. But now, race it over, hand over to you, James.
Okay, well, we're going to see what happens with Lewis Manley now. He's got Lorenzo Stolk behind him. Now, Lorenzo Stolk is not going to really respect any sort of previous performance from Lewis Manley. Lewis Manley hits the throttle. Stolk is trying to go with him, and they've got Davis behind them. And who we got? We got Jacob Lewis and Mason Bates and so on down the order. But it's Lewis Manley with Lorenzo Stolk on his case. And it is, of course, Adam Davis who's really staying there in third. Adam Davis under attack in turn. Lewis Manley running a bit wide. That allows Stolk to sort of reclose that slight gap. Down the backstretch, Lewis Manley getting defensive already. He's obviously expecting Stolk to come at him pretty early on as Manley enters the stadium section. There's Manley in the lead in the red suit. Lorenzo Stolk following behind. And Stolk is going to try and stay with Manley as long as he can. Stolk, if anyone is capable of doing it in this field, it's him. But look at Adam Davis. Steve, you obviously know Adam Davis pretty well. How will he be looking at this deal?
No, in Adam, he'll be looking at him and thinking, I'm getting past him ASAP. Yeah, he will, and he can say he's doing excellent, keeping in touch with him, nice smooth lines. He doesn't like this style of circuit, he prefers the normal one, he has told me that. So, but no, like you say, he's doing very well, third place at the minute. Come on, Adam, fingers crossed.
So the alternative circuit is not really Adam's scene. Anwar, going to go over to you. Lorenzo Stolk, do you think he'll play a bit of a waiting game behind Manley, or do you think he's going to try and attack really hard straight away?
It's a tricky one because Lorenzo would have seen Manley's pace over the weekend, and actually Adam Davis has gone for second before even Lorenzo gets a chance to do anything. He's gone through, he's got him. So a fantastic move there by Adam Davis. He's now into second, and that pretty much answers the question for you, James. He ain't going to do anything to Lewis Manley, unfortunately.
Unfortunately as well, even more so, all that's done is cost a load of time, and that's given Manley quite a healthy lead, and that's only happened because of an overtaking move. So I don't want to criticise him too much for getting in second place, but what Adam Davis has effectively done is given Lewis Manley the kind of free open hand that he probably didn't want to give him, because if you think about it, Van Geen's in the pits, Alex Van Geen leaving the pits, very close on that one. But if you think Adam Davis is actually further behind Lewis Manley in second place than he was when he was third, simply because of the overtake. Now, if ever Manley was going to actually get pressured, it's when someone's right behind him. This is exactly what Lewis Manley wants, I'm sure. It
is, unfortunately, yeah, from Adam's point of view, but let's see what he can do. He's getting his head down now, 34.92, 34 point, but Lewis, I say there he is, 34.163. Jacob Lewis into the pits, yeah. But no, like I said, the gap, unfortunately, as you say, James, I do agree with what you say there. He has put a little bit of a gap between himself, maybe sitting behind Lorenzo would have been the best option there, but no, he's gone for the move. Let's see what it plays out.
I think he's done the right thing personally, because just before he made the move, I was literally about to say Lorenzo looks like he's already getting gapped by Lewis. I'm not convinced that Lorenzo could have done anything about it. I think he was going to play a waiting game and try and consolidate second. Lewis looked like he was already stretching his legs. Certainly the first lap, the only reason Lorenzo stayed with him was because it seemed like Lewis went over defensive, even though he didn't have to. I think Adam's done the right thing. He's taken a chance when it comes to him, which you have to. And certainly I don't think Lorenzo's bothering him. He's already starting to gap him himself.
Absolutely. What Adam's other option would have been, Adam's other option, of course, would have been to have actually come in the pits, and that may have been what allowed him to get ahead of Lorenzo or stay with Manley without losing any time that they appeared to have lost. That's what I was thinking.
Well, maybe you could be right, but for me, I think if you can get a move done on track and it not cost you any time,
which it did,
that gives you track position, and then that gives you the dictatorship in terms of being able to make your pit whenever you want to. So I think that he's done the right thing. It's not cost him too much time. Manley's always going to win this race. We already said that. Look at him; he's absolutely flying away from the field. And Lorenzo Stolk certainly doesn't have the pace to really trouble Adam Davis at the moment. So I think he's made the right choice. If on this track, when it's this narrow, if an overtaking opportunity presents itself, you have to take it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Steve Gray, you've obviously known Adam Davis a while. What do you think he will be thinking? Do you think he'll actually believe that he can catch Lewis Manley, or will he be thinking, oh my goodness, that's Lewis Manley, I'm going to go for second?
Nope, he won't be intimidated by him in the slightest. Adam's a real racer, and he's going to get his head down now, and you can see he's just starting to gap Stolk, just that little bit. He's been a little bit quicker every lap, at 0.2 a lap. And the gap is now 0.6 seconds near enough, so you can see he's not letting Lorenzo get to him, and he's getting his head down. Good driving.
What about Lewis Manley? Because Lewis Manley's pulling away. Do you think Adam will be flustered at all by the fact Manley's pulling away? Because in order to overtake him, he's got to catch him.
It is, but then he's used to me pulling away from him. No, he's not really. He will see that the gap is opening maybe that slightly, but then he'll look behind him and see that he is pulling away from Lorenzo. So I think he's going to take heart from that.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be interesting because obviously we've got some pit stops to cycle through. When it comes again, we'll talk about Adam Davis, who's running second place. We talked about Lewis Manley an awful lot this weekend. Adam Davis there running second place. How's he finding those pit stops? Is this something we can expect? Because Lorenzo Stolt's going to make a good stop. Adam Davis, do you think he's going to be all right on the pits?
He's always okay, yeah, it's just getting that little bit of a knack, isn't it, to get the absolute perfect one. I managed to do it in my last one. I got a really good 44.3, I think I managed to get overall. So, but again, he knows now he's not, unfortunately, he's not in a position to get into the semi-finals, so he's just going to go straight for it, and I've told him, get into the pits, do your thing, and try and get a quick stop.
Can we expect an early stop from Adam Davis, or do you think he'll be middle, or even wait till right at the very end?
Oh, that'll be telling, won't it? Now, I don't know what his strategy is, unfortunately. He didn't go into that depth, but we have discussed in ways staying out right until the end, but then it depends what the traffic situation is like. You can assess the circuit, see what it is, but no, we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Absolutely right. That's why we're racing, isn't it? And we've got 14 minutes to do that. Anwar, we've got Mason Bates running in fourth from Dutch Westhoff and Jacob Lewis. Normally we would rate Alex Van Geen's chances pretty good against those guys, but Alex Van Geen is mired down in 7th place. We've seen him in the pits where the others haven't stopped. How are we feeling about his performance down there?
Well, Alex qualified 6th, which I think you'd be pretty disappointed with. I was going to mention it actually as qualifying finished. I think really Alex would have looked at this heat and gone, do you know what, I need to get a podium out of this. And at the moment, it's not looking like he's even going to get a top 5. Having said that, he's pitted early. I don't know how it's going to play into his hands because no one's really fighting at the moment. There's a lot of field spread. Even Adam Davis has now stretched Lorenzo to a really healthy gap that I don't think Lorenzo is going to be able to do anything about. I think maybe 6th is probably the ultimate that we're going to see from Alex. Maybe 5th at a stretch.
Absolutely. With Adam Davis pulling away slightly from Lorenzo Stoll, as soon as he kind of gaps him a bit, which he practically has, literally everyone's almost running out on their own, and so this is a question of individual speed and pit stops. So almost raceability has nothing to do with it. Alex Van Geen, though, he's running. He's not really on the pace. If you look at the times, Anwar, he's not as fast as Bates, Westhoff, and Lewis that we would consider he might be racing with. So Anwar, he came in nice and early, but there's really nothing gained on the face of it at this point.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing you want to hear if you're making an early pit stop. If you're not even carrying the speed to then catch up with anyone or stretch the gap so you can jump someone, then it's almost a waste. But ultimately, maybe this race wasn't going to come to anything for Alex for whatever reason. I know for a fact that, similar to what Steve said about Adam, Alex doesn't like this particular layout either. I know that he said he can't get on with it. He just can't get around the hairpins for whatever reason. So, that could be part of it. But at the same time, I would have expected him to do more in this race.
Absolutely, because of course the whole point of the early pit stop is because you believe you can run faster without somebody ahead. It's definite strategy, that one, isn't it? Pitting early. Pitting later is, if you're in doubt, pit later, because then you've got it in hand should you need to work your way around a big group that you're not happy with. So Alex Van Geen has no pit stop to work with. He's definitely speeding up because he's in the 34s now. He was running 35 seconds. But even then, it's not enough. Even his fastest lap is not really matching those ahead of him. They're sort of average laps. So Alex Van Geen, hopefully we can see him pick up the pace. He's a regular in the BRKC, but what can we say about Lewis Manley? He's already nearly 5 seconds up on Adam Davis. He's well on his way to having a pit stop in hand.
Yeah, exactly, and this is what we said before the race started, that it's probably going to be a runaway victory for Lewis. He's super confident, as we know, and he is quick around here. There's no doubt about it. So certainly he's someone we have to consider for the final. I still think Ruben's got enough in hand over everyone, not just him. It's not singling out Lewis in particular. I think Ruben just is too strong a competitor for many to beat. And it seems like you can do anything to Ruben to ruin his chances. Like 2 years ago, he qualified 7th for the final, and he still somehow won it. So,
and it has to be pointed out, he actually had to overtake his sister to win that final. So you can imagine a family feud over there is going to be probably the hardest piece of overtaking he's going to do, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, but also probably the one that he probably wanted to make the most at the same time as well. We all know what sibling rivalry is like. So, but I think if anyone's got an answer to 1 lap pace of Ruben, then Lewis is the man.
Yeah.
Again, I already mentioned my questions around racecraft. I think in terms of that side of things, it's going to be tricky. Ruben's a really, really cool customer. He knows what he's doing. He's got a lot of experience. So it's going to be hard to find anyone who's going to match him, not only just for pace, but then able to give him a race as well.
Oh, absolutely there, Anwar. I think you're right. Steve, your view of Lewis Manley, clearly, if he's going to win a race like he did yesterday, he ought to be winning this one, isn't he? So he's doing what we really expected, all with notwithstanding Adam Davis running 2nd place. If Lewis can win that race yesterday, he should be able to win this one. So this is really his to lose. He's walking away with it now. Adam, obviously, he's gapped himself a bit from Lorenzo Stoll. It's up to a 2nd now. Clearly, Adam will be looking more at consolidating that 2nd now. And how do you feel about Lewis Manley? I mean, he's got this all to lose, and he's leading now. That's where he should be.
Well, Lewis is so consistent. You can just see the lap times, 34 zeros, 33 nines. He's just banging them in left, right and centre. But obviously Adam's going to be looking now and seeing 5.81 seconds. He's going to see the gap pulling further and further away. And obviously as a racing driver, that is the last thing you want to see. But he's gapping Lorenzo. It is up to nearly a second now, so that is it's gonna be on his mind, thinking, well, I'm doing something right, because he knows Lorenzo Stolk's a great driver, and that's the point. He's going to be taking some art from it.
Yeah, and in fairness, he's probably lost sight of Lewis Manley now in terms of the track ahead of him. He'll have to look across the track.
Yeah.
But if he does look back slightly, he'll see that Lorenzo Stolk is there ready to pounce. We've seen a lot of Lorenzo Stolk this weekend, Anwar. We've talked about him a lot. We haven't really talked about Adam Davis very much, but he's doing a sterling job against Stolk there, isn't he, in terms of making sure that he's fast enough to keep Stolk in third while he takes second.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Steve said, he'll definitely take some heart from that. Everyone, we've all been here all weekend, so we all by now know who the good drivers are.
Yeah.
We all know who the people are we want to beat, and he'll definitely take heart from who he's ahead of. I think in terms of what we said earlier, obviously, if he had sights on Lewis Manley, I'm sure like anyone else, he'd get on it and just get his head down and try and beat him like anyone else would. But I think secretly, he'd look at Lewis Manley and think, if you offered me second behind him at the start of this race, I'd bite your hand off. So, he can't be sniffed at. But he's having a good race for sure.
Yes, he is, and he's showing genuine credentials by staying ahead of Stolk. That's something really key in that. They are coming to lap some people. Brett Gaskin got a lap down. Lewis Manley now, Dutch Westhoff came into the pits and came out not too far in front of Lewis Manley. Lewis Manley is catching him and ready to put the pass. There goes Adam Davis there, crossing the line with Lorenzo Stolk behind him and Brett Gaskin following through, although a lap down. There's Lewis Manley. Westhoff trying to wave him through there. Manley wanting to go one way and Westhoff pointing him the other. But Manley's through now. Steve, with the final, Ruben Bouton obviously most people's hot favourite. Lee Hackett another good one. Lewis Manley another. Is there anyone else that you've seen that particularly impresses about doing something in this?
Well, there's so many good drivers here. It's hard to pick a number out of that. But my favourite from the start was going to be Ruben Bouton's. Watching him race, and his sister. They must obviously run in the family. You can see they both are superb drivers, and we've been watching them all weekend. And you can see, the lines they use, they're so spot on every time. There's no mistakes, and that's what you've got to do. It's going to be interesting, but like I say, I've got to stick with my Ruben Bouton's to win, James. Got
to take the title. That's cool. Lewis Manley, really, he's the driver leading the race, so we'll talk about him again. Lewis Manley, he's absolutely up for the title this weekend, isn't he? He really is. And you talk to him, he's gaining confidence. Yes, Lewis, we've never had any shortage of certainly outward self-belief. He may have had some inner doubts, but he never assumes that he might not win. In the pits though. It's Mason Bates. Mason Bates coming out fourth place. Now that's Mason's best result so far. I think he's been passed though for position by Jacob Lewis. Now Jacob Lewis, he's the one we were talking about. Guess what he is? He's the Hereford novice champion. So another Hereford driver moving up the order, albeit in probably a slightly easier race than he had before. But Lewis Manley, yes, strong on self-confidence. He's done everything right this weekend. No one could ask for more to be done than Lewis Manley. The big question is when he hits the big guns in the final, because he's destined for the final in this. Let's start with you, Steve. Do you think he has what it takes? If he hasn't, what is it he's missing?
Well, I think he does, yeah, I do agree with that, but it's like you say, when he meets the big guns, is it going to just shake his confidence a bit? Because you can see he's racing now against people that are quick, but you're not racing against the likes of Ruben Bouton's. So it is going to be a bit of a shock to the system if he does get out front, look behind, expect the gap to be bigger than it is, and think, oh no, he's right there behind me, this isn't working. But it is going to be a big test to see if he can keep his nerve and just keep going.
Absolutely. Luckily for him, he hasn't had to face the like of Ruben Bouton's yet, so we've got no knowledge of what that'll be like. But I think if Lewis does start finding it a bit of a struggle in the final, I'm not sure it'll get him down a bit as much as confuse him. It'll almost be like a does not compute. He's not used to looking anything else, anything other than very good on his home track, Anwar. It'll be interesting to see how he tackles that should the situation arise. I mean, for all we know, he might be right at the front, which is no reason to expect not. If he can take the title off people like Ruben Bouton's, that would be just unthinkable, wouldn't it? Although we did write Slavek Piskorsov in the previous race, and look what happened.
I don't think it would be unthinkable, for sure, because we know how quick he is.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not writing him off.
He's in the pits now.
And he's in the pits,
through
so
the pit stop.
Here he comes, into the first one. That's a good, I think that's quite a slow stop, but I guess he's got the time to allow for it. He's almost blown that one, but he's managed to make it out. He's just about done it. Again, that's what worries me about him. There are little things that worry me about him. Outright speed, no doubt about it. Decision making, okay, he made a good decision yesterday. It worked out well, fine. But let's not forget what happened last year, and let's not forget the year before when it came to the Super Pole. He didn't quite have it for some reason. So that may be a combination of nerves, decision making, and racecraft, and that's what really worries me about him. I think the only thing that he has got that is absolutely unquestionable is pace. And you can go a long way with that in this, because let's not forget we are talking about a competition that relies on pace. We're talking about a competition where you put the right pole position lap in, you'll be laughing. You could potentially defend your way to the title if you had to. But that's the only thing that worries me. He comes against the big guns. Are they going to not bully him, so to speak, but are they going to use that to their advantage, out-muscle him? And if he gets out in front, there might not be any catching him. If he finds himself in seconds, will he make the same mistake that he made last year and panic, or will he be more calm and make a good decision like he did yesterday, or will we actually maybe see him make an aggressive overtake and go on and win it? That's what I really want to see from him, because I think if he has that in his locker, then he's well on his way to becoming a complete driver.
Absolutely. I think if anything goes wrong for Lewis in the final, it'll be so random that we won't have thought of it. I think that's the case. But meantime, we've got Adam Davis in the lead. So, Steve, tell us about what you've seen. Adam Davis, your mate from up in Blackpool, he's actually leading the race.
I know, I can't believe it. His mum's watching this. My mum and dad will be watching, cheering him on. No, it's great to see him up front, and he'll be looking around at the boards
in the pits. So this will be interesting.
Let's watch the stop. It seems pretty neat and tidy at the moment. Yeah.
Good
pretty
stop
good
from
start,
Stoke.
very good start.
Good stop
a lot
from
better than
Stoke.
Lewis Manley's.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and that is Adam Smith's main competitor, really, in real terms. Adam Davis, sorry, we've just been talking about previous Smith. Adam Davis, that's his main competitor, but Adam continues on in the lead. Steve, this is looking quite good, isn't it?
It is looking good. They say he'll be going around at the boards, looking at him, seeing that he's first, and that'll be a massive confident boost. I've known Adam for years,
the last
and that
chance
really
the pit
will.
board's getting ready as well.
Really will give him the boost. Yeah, they say he's going to have to come in this lap anyway.
Right. Well, what we'll do, Steve, we'll stay with you, and we'll get you talking through this. Lorenzo Stark's been caught up behind the back marker, Gaskin. Let's have a look, Adam. Surely he's going to come in this lap. Take a front seat and talk us through.
Oh, here we go. No nerves. Here we go. He's just coming around the top section now, so he's going to be looking. He's already, you can see him looking at the pits. He's already planning what he's going to do. Around the final corner, nice and easy. Get it through underneath the barrier, and here we go. Let's see. It's hope and pray. He comes in the pit. There he goes. The arm goes up into the pit lane. Let's watch the stop. Comes in nice and speed. Nice stop. Gets going. Very good stop to the next one. Keeps it rolling. Yeah, that's not a bad stop. That's not bad. He'll be pleased with that. He's going to keep the distance. Yep, he gets out second place, but Lorenzo is not far behind him at all as they go around the start of the Snell section now. Not far at all. It's absolutely the same as before, really. Right behind him. Very interesting. Good stop from Adam, though. He kept his nerve there. That's been probably the most of our problems, really, getting the pit stop nailed. It's brand new to us. We weren't, watching the video on the online. We're thinking, are we going to do this? But no, we've both seemed to have got it nailed, and that was a good stop.
Absolutely right. Obviously, that hands the lead back to Lewis Manley, but Lorenzo Stolk is a lot closer than he was. So Adam Davis under pressure, Anwar. What do you think of this? Because Stolk is actually starting to wave a little bit. I don't know what about. Certainly there's been no contact, but Davis is going to get under pressure again from Stolk, and he's going to have to avoid losing this position.
Yeah, absolutely. What I would say is it was a reasonable stop from Adam, but certainly he the first one stationary for too long slightly, and on the second one stationary for too long slightly. Compare that to Stolk's pit stop.
Bang, bang.
Had the movement, made sure that he was moving from a rolling start, and what that meant is that Adam, that gap he had built up just sort of disappeared, and he's now under pressure for the last period. However, having said that, Adam put the effort in the first place to build the gap up. He had the pace, he could do it again. All he has to do is remember that and get his head down. He gapped him in the first part, he can do it again.
Okay, Anwar. Well, we've got Lewis Manley surely going to take the victory, but Steve, talk us through this, because Adam is having to fight off Lorenzo Stolk. It's a serious competition, this one.
It certainly is, and the checkered flag's getting prepared. Adam's holding the inside line, he's keeping it. He can see the checkered flag, he's not going to let anybody past him. Holds the inside line. Lorenzo tries to cut round the outside as they come through. Is there going to be a last-minute dive up the inside? He feinted a move. Adam holds the inside so tight. Great win for Lewis Manley, but Adam Davis, that is a superb second place.
And you can see him cheering away. He's delighted with that. A real big fist wave as he crossed the line there. Second place, very good for him by any standards. He's really pleased. And to tackle a former, Kart World Championship junior competitor like Lorenzo Stolk, keep him honest and hold him at bay would have really taken something. I'm sure he's going to go back to his home circuit with, probably even better than before. Look at him waving his fist down the back stretch there. That is Adam Davis, about the happiest second place we've seen all tournament, Steve.
It was absolutely. It's no better feeling when you know you've done a good result against some of these guys. My first race, I managed to finish third, and I was going around the track like I'd won the race. No, absolutely superb stuff, and we're going to go right back to it and take all of the confidence that we've gained from here and hopefully come back next year and be a lot stronger.
Superb, Steve, and it will be good to see you guys back next year. And of course, Adam Davis down there, he's pulled in. He's having a chat with somebody about something. Obviously, nothing serious, but he'd be really delighted about that. And that was a great run second, withstanding the pressure from Stolk, who practically really caught him at the end after that pit stop.
Oh yeah, a great drive by Adam. Solid drive. He was faster. That's the bottom line. And the opportunity presented itself for the overtake, and that's what won him the race. It gave him track position, as I said, which is always going to be key. And it allowed him to make his pit stop and come out easily in front of Lorenzo. I think, though, having said that, Lorenzo's going to be disappointed because I'm not sure. I haven't seen the points, but I'm pretty sure he's going to need that extra point, to make sure that he's in a semi and also has a shot at the final. I think that perhaps that's a missed opportunity for him. But that's taking nothing away from Adam, because Adam's the one who took the opportunity away from him for a good drive. So
of course, saving grace potentially for quite a few people. Matt Barsh with his problems earlier. Stolk will be relying on that kind of thing, won't he? Because of the third place here isn't the sort of thing that he needs from a final point of view. But luckily for him, we've had problems for people like Barsh.